I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them blue.
Welcome to Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, powered by Jack's Angels, where we talk about your experiences, advocacy news, research, and today's heroes for kids. We are here to bring hope to the unthinkable but real experience of a child diagnosed with cancer. Jack's Angels' advocacy mission is to provide a voice for children with cancer to effect change for a more hopeful future for those to come. Childhood Cancer Talk Radio starts right now. Here is your host, Janet Demeter.
Well, happy New Year 2017, everyone. Welcome to Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, where kids come first for the cure. I'm Janet Demeter, your host, and we have a power-packed show for you today at this very eventful time for the United States government. 2016 gave us a number of different bills designed to a certain extent to increase research activity for pediatric cancers, which have historically been underfunded in the United States and around the world, for that matter. But fortunately, we had the Creating Hope Act, which was reinstated with the 21st Century Cures Act. This also included the Compassionate Use and the Moonshot Initiative, but the STAR Act, the Survivorship, Treatment, Access, and Research Act for Children, the Race for Children Act, and the Department of Defense Congressionally Directed Medical Research Program, which, with respect to pediatric cancer, has funded a handful of pediatric brain tumor and neuroblastoma projects, and also the National DIPG Awareness Resolution. These will all be seeking new passage in 2017. The purpose for this show is to provide for children with cancer and their families, caregivers, researchers, and advocates a forum for collaboration, community, understanding, and a platform from which they may give their stories, their news, their events, and concerns a stronger voice. We hope to provide support and, where we can, education for the community and to better acquaint the general population with childhood cancer, a devastating grouping of diseases that directly or indirectly affect us all, whether directly in our personal lives or indirectly through law and public health policy upon which we all rely. This flurry of legislative activity is important to the childhood cancer awareness movement for a number of reasons, mainly real and practical ones. For far too long, there has been inadequate funding for research activity for pediatric cancers. In our current medical research system, all pediatric cancers qualify as rare diseases, meaning, technically, that they affect less than 200,000 people a year. In our current system, it's difficult to attract adequate attention for these smaller populations. So what's the result? For brain tumors, for example, the leading cause of death in children with cancer, many families hear at diagnosis that there are no solutions for their child because of this lack of activity, or the child must undergo harsh and toxic treatments which have been designed for adults primarily. Only 3 drugs have been developed for children in the medical research system in the United States in the last 30 years. Most childhood cancer legislation on the books this year works from the perspective of increasing private sector incentives for investing in pediatric research, meaning pharmaceutical companies and biotech corporations using various creative and ingenious methods, such as in the Race for Children Act. And just an aside, for more information about that act, please visit kidsv, as in very, cancer.org, kidsvcancer.org. However, there has been great public outcry in the childhood cancer community concerning the fact that less than 4% of our government funds, which are purposed specifically for cancer research, only 4% benefit pediatric cancer as a whole. And there's a reason for this outcry, considering the fact that many feel our government funds ought to be used to benefit those most vulnerable and underserved in our population at large, and that our children ought to have greater consideration. So I urge you, again, to learn more about these pieces of legislation at kidsvcancer.org or visit our advocacy page at jacksangels.org. Our distinguished guest today is no stranger to legislative activity, public service, or childhood cancer. Christopher Winter Sr. is the Chief of Staff and Department Director for the Honorable Tom Caltagirone, Chairman of the Pennsylvania House Urban Affairs Committee, and, of course, member of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. Mr. Winters has 20-plus years of demonstrated success in development, implementation, management, and oversight of marketing campaigns and outreach plans. He's served as an independent independent contractor and consultant on private sector elections of associations, labor unions, private enterprise, and secondary educational institutions across the United States. He has served and continues to serve local business and community organizations, and has also served in the United States Navy, has a liberal arts education and corporate communications. He's been involved with pediatric cancer awareness as advocate and organizer since 2013. He served as Laney's Legacy of Hope and as the Laney Brown family spokesperson, and as a founder of Running for the Kids, a new nonprofit advocacy organization 2015 to present. A man after my own heart, Chris Winters. Welcome to Childhood Cancer Talk Radio.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you so much for the incredible introduction and the invite to be on here with you, Janet. I appreciate that.
Oh, well, I've been wanting to invite you for quite some time now, so I'm so glad that we can start out the new year this way.
Well, I appreciate that, and the only thing I'll tell you is the Running for the Kids. We are in the process of acquiring the nonprofit status. We are following the procedures to do that. We've been doing the running, but we actually now are taking the next step and making it into a nonprofit organization, which a lot of people that obviously are listening to your show have gone through. It's a lengthy, drawn-out process, but we want to make sure we do it properly. So, but thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, and to it was great to hear the update regarding the federal legislation that you gave us to open the show. So I appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is a learning experience for me all the time, too. I like to give this information because it helps all of us. Too often we are very isolated in the childhood cancer community, despite, with the advent of social media, which of course has been an enormous help. Enormous help, especially
right.
for the worst of the worst diseases. It's, it's still, so we need more. And so, thank you for joining with us, and thank you for running. Can I just say that?
Well, it was really a strange situation the way that came about. But I mean, it's.
Tell me.
I was 271 pounds. I was when I started with Laney Brown after Laney had passed away, and I was working with her mom, and she was setting up the foundation here locally in Reading, Pennsylvania. It was something that I just wanted to do because I wanted to run in her 5K. That was how it got started. It was I wanted to honor Laney. Because they do this thing called this Fashionista 5K, where everybody dresses in pink and tire stripes and they in tutus, and it's just a fun event. So the first time we did it, I was part of the board to work with under Jen's tutelage to get her 5K up and running, but the second one I wanted to be a runner, so that's why I started training. So I went from 271 pounds down to 192 pounds.
Wow.
And ran it. That was the first race I ran, and then it kind of took off from there. And I said, okay, what's the next step? And so we slowly increased the mileage, and that's how we came to it. But to run in a yellow shirt and to have people that run behind you at, I did a half marathon in Gettysburg. To have a runner say, I looked at your shirt the entire way, and I just paced myself with you because I kept looking at that shirt and realizing you were running for a cause. I was out there running for myself. And that's powerful. That kind of told me we got to keep going. So what was the next step? Well, the next step was the marathon. So, and then I did the marathon, and now we're going to take it to the next step and do a marathon in Pittsburgh in May. So hopefully with a bigger team of runners in that race with bright yellow shirts on. But we do that in collaboration with other organizations. I mean, the first thing was to do it with Laney's Legacy of Hope, and then I've run in other races that have been Aiden's Avengers, which you're familiar with, an incredible organization here in Berks County as well. I ran in their race in the rain. To honor these heroes, these warriors, these princesses, I mean, to me, it was just a no-brainer. It was about making sure the message was getting out there. And then when I started training for the marathon, it was about getting the message out there. Every time I trained and did a long run out in our community, people were seeing the shirt, and I would get people beeping at me or calling me or leaving me messages on Facebook saying, I saw you running. So we knew that the impact was creating, so now we want to take it to the next step, and that's why we're doing, we're working with to expand our team of runners, but it's not going to be about us. It's going to be about, okay, well, we're going to run a race for Fawn or Four Diamonds for one of their races, and that money is going to go to help those families. It's not about what we're doing. It's about making sure that we're doing something to work in collaboration with another organization.
Yes.
And that's how we got to Emily Whitehead Foundation for the marathon, and I am so proud to be part of that team because obviously, as you know, Emily Whitehead Foundation, they're looking at innovative research here in a Pennsylvania hospital in Philadelphia. And
Excellent.
To be part of that team is they're just incredible people. Janet, the Whiteheads they're just such a loving, bound together family, and they've incorporated all of the team, and it's an awesome experience. So I'm proud to run for them, and I'm going to be proud for the kids team to be running for them in Pittsburgh in May.
So if I were in Pennsylvania and I wanted to learn about the run, where would I go?
Well, right now we're just using my Facebook page. Now it's been kind of set aside, the Running for the Kids Facebook page for now. We haven't done much in it since the marathon through the holidays.
How about the foundation?
The foundation has a website, and the Emily Whitehead Foundation is on the web. I think the information for them, they also are constantly looking for new runners. If you're in Pennsylvania or you're in a state that's close to Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, and you want to run in Pittsburgh at the marathon, you can run as a charity runner for the Emily Whitehead Foundation. Their money goes into innovative research at CHOP Hospital in Philadelphia. So
awesome.
It's an incredible organization. It's an incredible family, and Emily is an incredible young lady. She's just, you can't help but love her.
Well, I just took a quick glimpse, and I fell in love with her picture. So I will be visiting Emily Whiteheadfoundation.org. And we're going to take a little break here because we have to do this. You're listening to Childhood Cancer Talk Radio on TogiNet.com. I'm Janet Demeter, your host, talking today with Chris Winters, Chief of Staff to the Honorable Tom Caltagirone of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, and also founder of Running for the Kids. Use that hashtag, Running for the Kids. We'll be right back after these messages from our TogiNet sponsors.
Stay tuned. Janet will be right back with more on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, where kids come first for the cure.
Close your eyes and imagine living your life without limits. Where would you go? Who would you meet? What would you do? During an Uncover Your Hidden Genius session, you will discover what's keeping you from living your life with purpose, passion, and fulfillment of your potential. You'll get a clear vision of the steps you need to take to uncover your hidden genius so that you can live a life without limits. Sessions can be done over the phone, Skype, or in person. Find out more at www.joycebufordempowers.com or by calling 903-287-0747.
About the Gaberlunzie bear caught rummaging through a refrigerator in an apartment in Colorado? The tenant heard noises coming from the kitchen and saw a bear with his head in the fridge, looking for anything it could eat. What's a word for food that's unfit for human consumption? Ma wallop. The tenant locked himself in his bedroom and called for help. What's a word for the fear of bears? Ursophobia. We have lots of bears near our Colorado cabin, and we have been told that pepper spray will keep them away. But the idea that it would keep a 500-pound grizzly bear from attacking seems ridiculous to me. I think I'll try the pepper spray on myself and hope the bear doesn't like spicy foods.
It's Marching Neighborhood.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
Welcome back to more great conversation on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, because every child's life deserves hope. Here's Janet.
And we're back again with Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, brought to you in part by Jack's Angels Foundation for Pediatric Brain Tumor Awareness and Research and Advocacy for Children with Cancer, on the web at www.jacksangels.org. I'm Janet Demeter, your host here at TogiNet, talking today with Chris Winters in Pennsylvania, advocate extraordinaire for kids with cancer. And, Chris, before the break, we were talking about your running, and I just love your story because it mirrors mine a little bit with running, except as I was talking to Chris before, during the break, folks, okay? But he, I love the support and the immediate recognition and the immediate kind of inspiration you gave people, whereas when I started running, it was kind of like I was a sore thumb in a crowd. They didn't really know much about childhood cancer awareness, but, that improved a little bit with time, but it's always been such like a huge stretch for me with my personal comfort level.
Right. Well, and honestly, it was a stretch for me because when I first started out, it was like 271 bearded and mustached guy running down along the Susquehanna River in Harrisburg with his fellow staffer who has done like 6 marathons. But he was I told him what I wanted to do, and he helped me, and he said, just because what you want to do it for the reason you want to do it. And it wasn't about, oh, I'm 45 years old and I need to get in shape. It was, I wanted to run in Lainey Brown's Fashionista 5K. Right. And it was, I wanted to honor Lainey and thank her for bringing me to where I was with the community. Because if it wasn't for Lainey Brown, I'd still be that naive chief of staff who, oh, yeah, I hear about the kids, but it wasn't personal. It wasn't.
So how did you meet her? How did you meet Lainey Brown?
Here's the story about this is you want to talk about God having an impact on people's lives. I mean, I'm chief of staff for Tom Caltagirone. Lainey's family lives in West Reading, so there are residents in our district. And a fellow nurse at the hospital where my wife works was friends with Jen Brown. Sends me a message through Facebook and says, you really need to follow this story. And Jen had just started telling Lainey's story. She had just been diagnosed with the cancer, and it was obviously a rare form, and there was a lot of concerns. And you need to follow her story. I started following her story because a friend asked me to. I just would send messages periodically, but I was not ingrained into what was going on until December 17th. I remember the day like it happened yesterday in my head. I was sitting on the sofa with one of my twin little girls, and Jen posted the now infamous that there was nothing more they could do for Lainey, and they were sending her home. Oh, and gosh. Then they started talking about doing that Lainey wanted Christmas Carol sung. Next thing I know, they put this post up about caroling, and I quickly called the organizer and said, hey, I'm involved with a lot of organizations. What can we do to help you guys? Are you need crowd control? Do you want to do lights? I can talk to the electricians union. What can I do? And next thing I know, I'm doing public relations, which is what I did for the representative. And the caroling, we had 10,000 people show up in the streets to sing Christmas carols in the little town of West Reading, Pennsylvania. And it went viral. It was all over the world that this spirit of Christmas had descended upon us, and unfortunately we lost Lainey on Christmas Day and Christmas morn at 3:10 in the morning. But the day after the caroling event, one of the family members had reached out and said, we have press showing up on our porch. We're getting press calls. We got people showing. Could you please do the press for us and try to intercede? And that's how I became their spokesperson until the day. I actually didn't meet Lainey Brown until the day I was at her funeral.
Wow.
But it was I will tell you that Jennifer Brown is one of the most incredible women I've ever met in my life, next to my wife and my mother. And she is, I just was drawn to Jen and her husband and their family, and, I worked with them to help get their foundation off the ground, and I thoroughly enjoyed doing it. But more importantly, what it did is it made me realize, and I met so many heroes. And I say all the time, my heroes go by the name of Seth and Colin and Colton and Never Stop and Me Noel and Isaac and Haley. I mean, I can rattle names off all night. And these kids have just had an impact on my life and the life of my family now.
Right. Wow. We'll have to. I'll have to look up Jennifer. We'd love to have her story.
She's an incredible woman. She just had a baby, and
oh, God bless her. That's fabulous.
Yeah, they're a great family. They're an incredible family, and they do so much good work for families here in Eastern Pennsylvania and beyond. They have a regional approach, but that family, the extended family, all the extended family have hearts of gold. They're really good people, but they have a finite audience of what they're working with. They're not looking that they want to do something, in Texas or Oregon. They're looking at the immediate 3, 4, 5 states around where they're at. So, but they're incredible people, and I'm honored to be involved with them, and it was an honor to, and privileged to serve them the way I could in that regard. It was emotional. It was raw. But it woke me up. It opened my eyes, and it made me realize that I needed to do something, and I needed to look at my position with Representative Caltagirone and say, okay, what can we do to make these lives better? What can we do to fight this disease? What can we do to go to war with pediatric cancer and change things? And that's when we started developing ideas.
Well, I'm so grateful for individuals such as yourself, because this population has been really underserved for the most part. Now, things are we're really getting a great momentum. I keep calling 2017 the year of miracles, because I really believe we've kind of reached that critical mass in consciousness where we can take definite, real, and effective steps to improving the medical research landscape, because it's been the way it's been and it's grown the way it is. It took a very long time, and we've done it's produced some amazing things and some amazing cures, but
we got a lot more. Well, yeah, there's a lot more work to do, and we still have a lot of issues. I mean, we have disparity of care issues. My hat's off to people like Ellen Miller and Mike Gillette and, the Kids versus Cancer, the St. Baldrick's people.
Yeah.
The amount of work and effort that they're putting into Washington, and they're doing incredible yeoman's work down there. They're making every effort to try to get Washington to listen to them, and I have to give them credit. They're going out of their way to try to make some change happen. And the big thing that I always say to people is we've got to make sure that the funding mechanisms are in. I've been around in legislation. I've been in politics for my entire life, even as a young child. And one of the things I know about Washington is we have got to make sure that the funding mechanisms is in place to whatever we're doing, whether or not it's the Gabrielle Miller Kids First Act, or whether or not it's the Race for the Children Act or the STAR Act, and even the DOD funding issue. We have to make sure that they're putting those terms in so that you have a funding mechanism to make sure that they're not just passing something that's a piece of paper that says, okay, we did this. We need to make sure that they're actually authorizing that funding and putting that funding in. And what I've said to people is that, we can do that, and we need to put that pressure on. You need to use people like me who are in legislative roles to do that. But maybe we can change some of our tactics and look at directing our efforts in other places. And I've been talking about that since 2015, when we first started with our legislation in Pennsylvania to make some changes.
Well, it all starts with awareness. And if people don't know, if people don't really realize, you have to, the thing about it, yes, the childhood cancer community is a smaller population in the country, but it has a widespread effect. It affects everyone. We're talking about disease. We're talking about public health policy. We're talking about how the funding mechanisms that you were just talking about are put in place.
Yeah, exactly, John. And it when you look at this and you say to yourself, okay, why am I have a population of 400,000 in Berks County, Pennsylvania? Why do I have 160-some kids diagnosed with some form of cancer in Berks County, Pennsylvania, with a population of 400,000? When you start looking at those statistics, you're sitting there saying to yourself, how is that happening? Mm-hmm. How are we, a population of 400,000, have 160 kids currently either in treatment, out of treatment, which I always laugh because they may be out of treatment, but they have a load of other issues, which, again, I was naive before Laney Brown. Now I've learned. Now I've learned about the hearing loss, the vision loss, the taste loss, the body mechanic issues, the loss of memories, the constant headaches. Dami is one of the children that is like a second or third child to me. Her parents are Melania. They just had their daughter in there getting checked because their concern is the shunt acting up again, and she's experiencing significant headaches. So what's going on? She's having seizure activity. So these are children that are supposedly NED, but yet they're having extra situations they have to deal with, and they have to continue to deal with as survivors. Those are things that we're not addressing, and Pennsylvania, we're lucky. We've gone out of our way in Pennsylvania to enact laws that, if your child is diagnosed with cancer, whether or not you're making $2,000 a month or you're making $20,000 a month, you're immediately put on, Pennsylvania's health insurance
That's
Medicare.
Great.
And
that's fabulous.
But the amount, Jenny, you know this because you and I have shared stories with especially within the DIPG community, of kids who are in, and I can't say their name on because I don't have permission to, but I will tell you the story. 6 months ago, I had a family from the upper Midwest reached out through another individual who's an advocate. You know him, Ronnie. Ronnie sent him to me because he knew of my connections within the political communities, and we were able to get them. But they were at a community hospital in the upper Midwest, and the child was being treated with adult medicines and whatnot. There was no pediatric oncologist available, and luckily we were able to make arrangements, and they were sent to a Western state children's hospital to get care.
We're going to take a quick break. I want to come back to this story. That's okay. I'm Janet Demeter, host of Childhood Cancer Talk Radio. We'll be right back after these messages from our TogiNet sponsors. Don't go.
Stay tuned. Janet will be right back with more on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, where kids come first for the cure.
LinkedIn. It's a great tool and a great way to do business in today's social media-driven world. And Carol McManus is the LinkedIn Lady with the LinkedIn Lady Show, Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern on allbusinessradionetwork.com. The LinkedIn Lady Show is designed to inform, inspire, and educate businesses. Every social media site has a specific demographic, personality, and purpose. And the LinkedIn Lady will interview a variety of guests, such as business owners who can showcase their business and talk about how they use social media, such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google+, Pinterest, and of course, LinkedIn. For more on Carol and the show, check out her website, LinkedInLady.com. As trends change and new applications become available, the LinkedIn Lady Show will bring that information to you in an easy-to-use, fun, and engaging way. Every Tuesday and Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. Eastern, it's the LinkedIn Lady Show with Carol McManus on allbusinessradionetwork.com.
It's words you never heard.
When I was growing up in Wisconsin, no matter how frigid it was outside, my Uncle Bob never seemed to get cold. He would come in from the snow wearing a t-shirt and remark how fresh it was outside. Then again, folks from Wisconsin are a pretty hardy bunch. As America's official dairy state, the cows have been known to give ice cream instead of milk when the temperatures drop. What's a word for a giant snowball that is formed by rolling a smaller one through a field of snow? Hog-a-ma-dog. Megla is an old Scots word meaning to trudge laboriously through the snow. And mufflements is an old Lancashire word for thick, warm, insulating clothes and gloves. Don't forget that you shouldn't try and send text messages if you're standing out in the cold. It can lead to hypothermia.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
You'll always have my shoulder when you cry.
Welcome back to more great conversation on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, because every child's life deserves hope. Here's Janet.
And we're back again. I'm Janet Demeter with Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, where every child is a life, not a number, here on TogiNet.com. We will continue in just a moment with our awesome conversation with Chris Winters, who is working tirelessly with the Pennsylvania State Legislature and also who is founder of Run for the Kids, an advocacy organization for children with cancer. And we're runners, which is awesome. So I'm going to be one of their runners too. And he's also an important advocate today in the movement, because we need people working with our legislators and the legislators themselves. But quickly, I'd like to update you with some advocacy news and events supporting that news. January 2017, exact date has to be announced yet, but I should know by our next show. The National DIPG Awareness Resolution will be reintroduced, and there's improved language in it, which I will also tell you about. It's naming May 17th as National DIPG Awareness Day, and I'll tell you why. Last year, it was introduced designating the fourth week of May, but we're choosing May 17th because our sister foundation in Maryland, the Michael Mosier Defeat DIPG Foundation, is orchestrating an amazing event. They are organizing volunteers and folks around the country in each state to petition their governor and or state legislature. And I'm helping with that in California. There's a group of us in California, and all over the country, but they are working to get each state to make a proclamation for DIPG awareness on that day. So we have chosen that day for the National Awareness Resolution, so that this is a concerted effort, a mutually supported effort, and our goals being the same. One of the most important things that I want to stress about this, because I've been personally involved with DIPG because my son had it. I lost my son to DIPG, which most parents do. It changes your life forever when you get this diagnosis, where grief begins at diagnosis, because it's just the outlook is so bleak, and doesn't matter what professional you look to. The numbers aren't great enough for investors. That's the answer you get when you're like, why isn't there more research activity for these kids? And they've known about it for decades. And so parents are expected routinely to accept a death sentence for their child and just accept that. And a lot of us have had enough. And I don't think this is representative, I think, of a lot of folks in the childhood cancer community. We're using DIPG in the resolution not to make it more important than other childhood cancers. No. And this is a hard point to get across, because people, this is a really sensitive issue. It's an example, really poignant one, of here's this disease that universally fatal, virtually. No progress since Neil Armstrong's daughter died of it in 1962 in either treatment or prognosis. And, only 4% of our National Cancer Institute budget are government funds that are designated specifically for cancer research. Only 4% benefits pediatric cancers as a whole, because each of these diseases represents a rare disease. It's a small population, yada, yada. Our system is not set up, to save lives first or to put children first. It's set up to serve numbers, and that's altruistic moral thing too. That's what we have to do, serving a giant, 300 million people or 500, however there are now in the United States. I'm dating myself to the 70s with the 300 million. Anyway, bottom line, we need to do something more in the medical research landscape to accommodate mortality rates, people that are looking at death for sure, and our kids, years of life lost, definitely. So that's really what the resolution does in its language. It asks for more consideration for mortality rate and years of life lost with the NCI research grant process. Okay, that's just one of the things it does. But, in pointing out DIPG, it just, there's tons of thousands of kids over the past several decades that have died of this, have faced death bravely, families emotionally decimated, like as with other pediatric cancers. But this at least acknowledges them and also lets those know that right now we're fighting for them. We're not just, there just aren't enough of them for us to invest in the research. And I'm sorry to make a joke of it, but I have to, because when you live through it, then it hurts like heck, and you don't know how you can go on without your child. You know what helps me go on? The love I see from people in their fight today. And I live for the day when no one else has to hear what I heard. When no one has to hear again that there's no solutions for you. Sorry, because, there aren't enough of your kids like yours for us to care. I mean, I know that's not what is intended, but that's the experience, Anyway, so I'm really happy about this resolution. I'm super excited about the Across the Map with Michael Moser, Defeat DIPG Foundation. I'm hoping, I can't promise you, but I'm hoping to have Jenny Moser on the show next week, and hopefully some people from other states who are working on it. It's an awesome thing, and I think it's an awesome thing for childhood cancer. So I wanted to tell you about that. Also, we're going to try to make action days on the week of the 17th and every month until May be action days to calling, your state representatives. Please support the bill to go through. And so last year, last year's our advocacy efforts with the Obama administration, we were told again and again that a nationwide effort has to be evident, really, for there to be a presidential proclamation. So who knows? Maybe we could get such a thing from our new president this year. Events in January, Beth Ann Talford is taking on the World Marathon Challenge. Okay, runners, and Chris, you're going to love this. 7 continents, 7 marathons in 7 days. She's running to hit the $1 million mark for funds that she has raised cumulatively for, I think she only has like 100,000 or something to go, but please support her for brain cancer research funding with ABC Squared, which is Accelerate Brain Cancer Cure. It's so cool. It's like this venture capitalist style company, but to fund brain cancer research. Really awesome. Go to abcsquared.org to learn more about them, and you can support Beth in her 7 continent, 7 marathon in 7 days adventure, which is slated to begin January 23rd at BT, like brain tumor, WMC, World Marathon Challenge, btwmc.org. Okay? And then Jack's Angels Relay for Research, we're doing a virtual run. Meaning you register, you get a beautiful medallion, you get a little number and your stopwatch, and you can join teams, and you can run this or walk this event from anywhere in the world in support of research and also this new resolution. It opens at curedipg.org on the 17th of January. We're having a local event here on April 30th called Run the Rocks. Go to runtherocks.info for that. And we're asking people to run, and they can run this or walk this whenever they want, the virtual one, but we're asking them in support of the resolution and the DIPG Across the Map to please run between April 30th and May 17th, the big day. So that's what I have for January. Right now, we're going to have a lot of updates on the different pieces of legislation. I do suggest, again, going to kidsvcancer.org for probably the best updates. And also, if you're new to the community, or not even new for that matter to the childhood cancer community, visit cac2.org for resource information. We are blessed with a huge uprising over the past several years of so many helpful organizations. And honestly, with DIPG, the reason why we're making so much progress lately is because all these little organizations that have popped up for them collectively and collaboratively together are funding the research. It's a huge burden for bereaved parents, but that's why we really want the government to step up a little more in the private sector where they are so motivated. But my hat's off to the Cure Starts Now, to Sophie Smiles Forever, for Smashing Walnuts. There's so many that I'm not naming. I'm embarrassed. But if you look at DIPG.net and look for the DIPG Collaborative, there are umpteen organizations that get together and fund the research for this, the deadliest pediatric cancer. At any rate, we're back. We feature all pediatric cancers here. I've had different forms of leukemia, rhabdomyosarcoma, osteosarcoma, the anaplastic Wilms, ASPS. I think I said that right. Anything. You are all welcome. We want to hear your story. Please contact us at cctalkradio.org and with the subject line, My Story. And you know what? You could be on the show. We'd love to have you. And so I'm back to my fantastic guest today. I'm so glad to have you with us today, Chris. Yay, a fellow runner. I'm so excited. And I'm so excited for Run for the Kids, guys. Hashtag Run for the Kids. Support this new organization that is anxiously awaiting its 501c3 approval, correct?
Well, yeah, that's what I have to call a lawyer and make sure that because we will not do anything until we're completely legal. I just want to make sure we're following the rules.
We're talking about this story of a particular family and a child that you had heard of through a friend who had referred you. I didn't need to add, we had to go to break. So
yeah, it's frustrating because it's not. When we got involved and Representative Caltagirone made the decision that we went and we toured Hershey and we got to see the conditions at Hershey's labs, and we went through the infusion unit and we got to meet some of the superheroes. It really touched Tom and I. And when we got back to the Capitol, he said, "We're gonna just start putting legislation," and that's what we did. But he's pretty much authorized me to, do whatever we need to do to try to help anybody who's got a issue with pediatric cancer, whether or not it's insurance problems, whether or not it's housing issues, and we've been swamped. I mean, and the sad thing about it is it's the disparity that you can have from one state to the next. And in that case, that Midwestern state was that community hospital was not prepared to handle that child and that child's diagnosis. And luckily, through some very good national organizations who assisted, we were able to get that family situated to a Western children's hospital that could have that child seen by a pediatric oncologist and neurologist and work with them. But I mean, think about the amount of kids that...
We'll hear more in just a minute. We'll be right back after these messages from our TogiNet sponsors. Don't go away. I want to hear about it, hon.
Stay tuned. Janet will be right back with more on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, where kids come first for the cure.
If you could live your life truly standing in a place of peace, joy, and abundance, wouldn't that make your heart soar? Now you can, with Lessons in Joyful Living, with your host, Kimberly Rinaldi, Mondays at noon Central. Kimberly Rinaldi, having created a highly successful coaching practice, now teaches Lessons in Joyful Living. She believes in empowering others and that through it, you have the ability to break through any and all barriers, thus allowing you to reach your greatest potential and joyfully step into your life's purpose. What used to take weeks, months, or even years, she can now teach you in a matter of hours with her programs. For more on Kim and her show, go to her website, KimberlyRinaldi.com. That's RINALDI.com. Then join us for lessons in joyful living with your host, Kimberly Rinaldi.
It's words you never heard.
I always get a kick out of the warning labels companies attach to prevent lawsuits from the hooky-crooky of this world. A warning label on a dishwasher cautioned not to put any person in the unit. Speaking of dishwashers, one product warning on a television remote control read, "Not dishwasher safe." That's too bad because we know how dirty the remote control gets. In fact, we press the buttons even harder when we know the battery is dead. What are we, part of the ridiculati? A warning on a baby stroller read, "Remove child before folding." Here's one for the blunderbusses and popinjays among us. A label on a letter opener read, "Safety goggles recommended." Call me snarky, but any society that needs this many disclaimers has too many lawyers, pettifoggers, and snollygosters.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
Welcome back to more great conversation on Childhood Cancer Talk Radio, because every child's life deserves hope. Here's Janet.
Let's talk about that.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to talk, because that's not even, we're not ready for that yet. But I mean,
Okay.
I'll allude to it.
And we're back with Childhood Cancer Talk Radio. And I'm talking today with Chris Winters he works with one of the legislators from the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. And we were talking before the break about some of the disparities in availability of decent treatment, or at least decent opinion, state to state, and some of the experiences that you've had.
Well, one of the stories I wanted to tell you, Gene, that happened recently, and Pennsylvania is a good state, and we do a lot of great things here, and we have great institutions. We have 4 institutions in Pennsylvania that we're very proud of. UPMC in Pittsburgh, Hershey, Penn State Hershey in the mid part of the state, CHOP in Philadelphia, as well as Abramson Cancer Center in Philadelphia. So we're lucky. We have 4 incredible institutions in Pennsylvania. But I will tell you that one of the things that we as a community cannot do is we cannot attack organizations like the hospital. One of the things I saw about a month ago was somebody advocated that we were going to storm the phone lines of a hospital in western Pennsylvania because there was an issue with a child there. Now, luckily, calmer heads prevailed, and we were able to help that family out. And luckily, because yes, the family would have got response from all those phone calls going to the hospital, but then what about the next family after them that has to deal with something or some sort of problem at that hospital? We have to learn to be a little more diplomatic in how we handle things and how we're out there trying to make things happen. Because the disparity in funding and the disparity in care and the disparity in continuity of that care across the country, as I've grown so intently aware of what's going on within these poor children and the way they're being treated by various hospitals or various organizations, is so varied that it's actually scary. Because I can see cases on my desk where I've got, a family from New Jersey that we literally had somebody help move them to Pennsylvania so that their child could get good quality care as a Pennsylvania resident.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't get them taken care of, and we literally did a fundraising effort to get that family moved so that child was getting quality care, because the family didn't have the resources to make that move. Of
course. A lot of people find themselves in that position.
Right, and we're seeing it right now with the infant daughter in the Carolina. We're trying to help get her up to CHOP in Philly to have a second look at what her situation is. It takes teamwork, it takes organization, and it takes collaboration and quality working together. The biggest problem I have is we have people that we try to reinvent the wheel within our community. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We already have the COG. We don't need to go out there and build a list. We need to do the job that we already have and concentrate on our states to try to figure out how can we make things better at the state level. And you and I were talking about it before the show. If we can build things at the state level, that makes the incredible work that everybody's doing at the federal level so much easier because we're building a farm team that's going to basically put the pressure on the Washington.
Well, yes, consensus, among the states. I mean, the federal legislation is really, really important. I mean, the STAR Act addresses that access problem to a certain extent. I mean, it's a beginning. It doesn't do everything, but it's a beginning, and we have to start somewhere. And so I can't stress, to all of you listening, we've made some incredible progress, the past few years with these issues, but as you can see from what Christopher's telling us is that we have a long way to go, so there's a lot of work to be done. One thing that you can do, and it's easy, is talk to your representatives in Washington. Absolutely. That's what they're there for. And I think this is going to be kind of a renaissance year for our government and for people realizing that they really do play an important part and they need to play it.
Well, and they do. I mean, look, you're going to have people like me who are sit in legislative offices, and our job is to be the gatekeeper coming through the door to determine what we need to do. Well, that's why we need to have concerted, organized, responsible efforts, making sure that organizations are legitimately set up and legitimately put together and doing legitimate goals, so that we can actually gain credibility within the political legislative circles and can get the jobs done. Because if we can do that, if I can go into Pennsylvania and go into Harrisburg and we can get legislation adopted in Harrisburg, we then can look at taking that legislation, and we're going to do it in Maine. And we're already doing that. And we're going to do it in Arkansas. We already have that in the works. We're going to do it in Oregon. We have somebody in Oregon in the works. We're already quietly behind the scenes making this effort to try to do this through years of legislative contacts that I've built within the various state legislatures. Because to me, Janet, if we can get those done, it puts pressure going up the hill because now we're going up to Washington. So all the good work of the Ellen Millers, yourself, and others to do the various things you're doing at the national level, if we can give you the support behind the scenes, what does it matter? As long as we're getting it done and we're doing it in an organized manner, and as long as we're making sure that we're doing it responsibly, so that when we go into those offices, we're establishing credibility immediately and getting the job done. And I think if we do that, then it's going to make it so much easier for CAC2 and Kids v. Cancer and all these organizations to go to Washington and say, look, you wanted a national effort, you got it. And that's why yesterday I committed to you that we are going to work with Aiden's Avengers, because we're going to put together an event with our office and one of the senator offices in Pennsylvania to put together this May 17th event. There was some conversations today. So Representative Caltagirone took the resolution you sent me, and we sent it up to have it drafted for the House. I'll let Aiden's Avengers handle the governor's people, but we want to get Aiden's Avengers up to the Capitol so we can recognize the work they did in May and get that resolution adopted by the Pennsylvania House. And hopefully my friend and colleague in the Senate, who I spoke to today, he'll be able to make it happen in the Pennsylvania Senate. And, so you'll have all three, you'll have the Senate, the House, and the governor, hopefully in Pennsylvania. Plus we get Aiden's Avengers up there, and we can honor them for the work they've done in bringing awareness to Dip G and in honor of their son, who was an incredibly little boy. I mean,
I like that. I like Dip G.
Between you and I, that's one of the things of the last 3 years I've had trouble with. There's so many acronyms. It's like I was listening to you earlier, and I was going, oh my gosh, I hope she doesn't ask me because I don't remember what that stands for. But there's so many, and it's funny working with the research people from Hershey when we put together some of the bills that we've done, and they're incredible people at Penn State Hershey. I can't them and CHOP and UPMC. We're lucky. We're lucky here in Pennsylvania and the surrounding states. We have great institutions that are willing to work with us.
Definitely.
But we also have developed incredible relationships in Ohio with folks in Ohio. And we have Kelly down in West Virginia with her organization. we're really happy with the way things are progressing and putting together. And Representative Caltagirone is really, excited that we might be able to get something done in Pennsylvania quickly. We almost got it to cross the finish line. We just ran out of time, unfortunately, as we ran out of time with the STAR Act in Washington.
Right.
Unfortunately, that is the nature of politics right now.
Yeah. It's crazy right now. We're lucky we got it through the House.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and I was worried. I was hoping I was going to be proven wrong, but I was based on what I was being told in October was that there was an outside issue affecting the STAR Act's ability to pass. And I think some of the people that ran the STAR Act actually said that, and they came out after it didn't get through the Senate to explain exactly what we had heard in October, that there was going to be a problem. And really, there shouldn't have been.
Has there been any light shed on what that was, what that involved? Because that would be helpful to people. And I'm not, I don't want to comment on Washington because I really don't know the ins and outs of the legislature in Washington as far as the political. Okay.
I understand the mechanics. I don't understand the politics. It was my understanding it was something to do with a continuing resolution, and there was some question it was being held up due to some funding issues, but it wasn't STAR Act that was causing the problem. It was an external source that was causing the problem, and it wasn't that people weren't supportive of the STAR Act. It was basically a bigger political picture in Washington.
Right.
Our people, I was a little critical of people, and I shouldn't have been back, honestly, in December. But I will tell you now, after I got to review everything and got to read it and spoke to my colleagues across the political circles across the country and as well as in Washington, the story I got back was this was strictly internal politics that caused that. These folks that are pushing for the STAR Act down there in Washington, an incredible amount of heavy lifting and hard work, and I will give them credit because if they wouldn't have done the effort they did, we wouldn't even got it out of the House. So we did some good. We just need to now finish it. But that's why I want to give you guys a farm team. All those of you that are working in the national level, I want to build a farm team for you at the state level and the local level, and that's what we're working on right now, Janet.
Fantastic. Well, you know what? I'm going to have you back, I hope, for an update on that, because I know that, you're working on your run for the kids, but you have this larger vision in mind. And when it becomes a little more clear, I want you on to give us all the details, because
it is clear.
Really
it's
important.
Actually, it's been certified, so we've been certified. We've already got all the paperwork documentation that we need to put together, but we don't have the final straw, which is that 501c3 status.
So for now, they go to we direct people to your Facebook page for updates.
Correct. For now, we're going to start updating. I have an incredible team of runners that have now collected with me with the Running for the Kids, and they're actually, my wife is leading one of the relay teams. She just started running, so this is going to be her first 5 miles run ever in a race in Pittsburgh.
We'll put updates on jacksangels.org. I'm just going to let our listeners know that too.
Yeah. And we're building a team of runners, but I have two gentlemen who have said that they will take over that Facebook page for me so I can concentrate on some of the legislative agenda items. And
Great.
They're going to try to keep everybody updated. They're two runners. They do a lot of running, and they're going to help me. Actually, both of them are lawyers, and they're great men.
Promise me you'll come back, because
I
we're
promise.
running out of time,
maybe
my
I'll
friend.
bring a surprise. Maybe I'll be able to bring you a surprise guest next time I come back.
Yes, that'd be awesome.
Maybe I'll bring Chairman Caltagirone, and we'll get him on, and he can tell you how touched he was.
That'd be brilliant. Thank you so much, my friend. Christopher Winters, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you for being a force for advocacy.
Thank you, Janet.
Visit jacksangels.org. As founder and president, Janet strives to assure that children with cancer and their parents have a voice.